Hi, this is Jamie Dana from Elevate Counseling, a counseling private practice in Glendale, Arizona. And my team and I help kids and teens and adults shift their thinking and find more enjoyment in life. I wanted to jump on here today and talk a little bit about boundary and limit setting with our kids. So this is one of the biggest challenges that we as parents face on a daily basis. And first, I think it's really important to acknowledge that pushing boundaries is developmentally normal, and it's actually a really good thing. It also gives us some feedback sometimes about whether or not our kids are ready for new responsibilities. I like to use the analogy of a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. So the cocoon is the limit on the butterfly. In the same way, your limits are your cocoon on your child. And they're going to get out someday, right? They're going to grow, they're going to move on. That's the hope. But they need to show that they are ready to fly. And so your job is to ensure that they have the maturity and the strength to operate with fewer limits. This push and pull by its very nature is anxiety and emotionally evoking, right? There are a lot of strong feelings on both sides with this kind of thing. And child psychologist Gary Landreth coined a simple yet effective model to diffuse these situations and help to redirect behaviors. So it's easy to remember. It's 3 steps, and it is referred to as the ACT model, that we can use when we have our kids pushing our rules or our boundaries. So the ACT model, the A stands for acknowledging the feeling, C stands for communicating the limit, and T stands for targeting alternative behaviors. And so the acknowledging the feeling, what we want to do with our kids is we want to actively listen to what they're saying. We withhold judgment, and then we provide validation before we say anything. And that is the most important part, the validating first, because if somebody feels validated, they are much more likely to listen to what you have to say. And that's essential if we're trying to set limits. So once you have validated what they have to say, you want to communicate the limit. And we can do this, as we do this, is we're just very objectively saying, this is what the limit is, this is the rule, that you broke, and maybe this is the consequence that comes with that. You want to make sure that you remain calm, that your body language, your nonverbals are not communicating something that your words are not communicating. So if you can't keep your body language objective, then you might need to give yourself a little bit of a timeout and regroup so that your frustration that's right below the surface isn't evident to your child as you're talking through some of these things with them. Once you come back and you're able to communicate the limit, then it's time to target alternative behaviors. So this is talking about how to handle this situation or similar situations in the future that also help your child meet the needs that they were talking about when you were listening to what they said at the beginning. So there could be certain solutions that are more appropriate than just, completely, defying or breaking the rule. And you can go ahead and brainstorm those ideas together and, consider coming up with maybe changes to the limits if that's what looks appropriate once you guys have talked initially. And I'll give an example of that in my own life. So I have 2 boys, and my oldest one was feeling really, really frustrated because he was going to bed really early. And that being said, I go to bed very early. Our whole family goes to bed pretty early. And so he was feeling like he was going to bed before all of his friends. It was during the school year, and he wasn't tired when he was going into his room to go to bed. And so he was telling us about this. He was saying, everybody else is staying up later, and I'm kind of laying in my bedroom. It's light outside. And, he felt like he was ready for more responsibility. So, we were able to affirm some of those feelings. And then we were also able to communicate our limits. So what was important to us was that, the reason that limit had been established was we wanted to make sure that he wasn't tired when he went to school in the morning, that he wasn't cranky with us, that he was able to get up and get out the door. And so we said, what's important to us with our limit is making sure that you're able to effectively take care of the things that you need to take care of in the morning. And so we said, let's try that for a week. Let's go to bed 30 minutes later and see if you're able to maintain, getting up and getting dressed and getting out the door. And if that's the case, then we can go ahead and move that limit back for you. And he actually did really well with that. He took actually more responsibility. He was doing better at those things than even before when we had him going to bed earlier. So that was really important in being able to give him more responsibility. We saw, based on his actions, that he was ready to maintain himself without us establishing those rules quite so tightly. While we were still able to maintain the bigger value of making sure that he was well rested and prepared for his days. So this sounds easy when it's something that we are willing to be more flexible on. But what do we do in situations where we feel like we have family values that we don't want to be flexible on, and we still need these limits maintained? A good example would be something like if you don't have phones in your kids' bedrooms at night, and you wake up and you find that the phone is missing, and they've snuck the phone into their room, and this is breaking a rule that you feel like shouldn't be broken. So the first thing that you would do in a situation like this is calmly bring it to their attention. Hey, I found your phone was in your room when it was supposed to be in the kitchen, where we leave it for the night, and this is a problem. So let's talk first about why you did this, what you were thinking of. So that's the acknowledging the feeling, right? So your child might say something like, you know what, everybody else has the phone in their room, and I'm not tired when I go in to go to sleep, and I'm missing out on what's going on. I need to be able to be in communication with everybody. So you would acknowledge those feelings, right? It's hard. It's hard knowing that other people are able to do things that you can't do, that the party's continuing without you, and you feel like you're missing out. So that's you kind of explaining that back to them. Then you communicate the limit, right? So the rule still stands. You snuck your phone in despite the fact that you knew that this was a limit. And because you broke the rule, this is the consequence that will be enforced. And so there's no judgment in that. There's no name calling. There's no accusations. It's just a statement that the rule was broken and that this is the consequence of that. The next piece would be targeting the alternative behaviors. So, brainstorming what to do in the future. What are other options? If you're not tired at night, what can you be doing instead? And are there other times that you can communicate with your friends during the daytime, during the hours that have been established where that's appropriate? Maybe there are other things they can do, like invite their friends over in the evenings, or they have more sleepovers now that it's summertime, so that they can continue socializing in a way that you feel like is more appropriate. Maybe you find that they actually need more support. Maybe this is a real issue for them. Maybe there's a lot of anxiety, or there's some social issues that they're dealing with where it is creating a problem beyond just here's a rule and here's a consequence. In that case, you would know this if you see that they're continuing to brood for days, after the limit's been set, or they're becoming physically aggressive or violent. Then those are situations where you want to make sure that they have support and learning strategies to manage those emotions. So if you want more tips or tricks like this to help support your mental health, you can learn more at elevatecounselingaz.com. You can also check out our upcoming parent workshop series that will be run in August with Sophia Phillips. She's our child expert. Or you can go to our Facebook page and get our free 5-day Anxiety Buster e-course. And then periodically you'll see me on here as well. So until then, keep doing, keep being, and keep growing. Thanks.